Hi and welcome back. In this video I'm gonna present my first round from the GRENKE Freestyle Chess Open. I was playing the black pieces and my opponent was around 2100 rated and we started from this position. So first let's have a look what's going on there, and first thing you always should do in freestyle chess is check if there is any unprotected pawn on your 7th rank. This is not the case here, and once a game started, players usually need some time to think about what's going on there and what's not going on there. There are some boards next to you, they play some openings. You might take a look. I actually did not like to take a look because I was trying to deal with my own thoughts only. And once I had a look at this position, I thought that probably the most annoying move I would face was pawn to g4. This is gaining space and freeing his queen, and it didn't take so long that he played this move. And now it was me who had to think how to tackle this one. And especially in games where you play lower rated guys and you want to win the game, I had the feeling that I should break the symmetry at some point in a good way. So what to do? How to break the symmetry? Of course not g5. This is kind of the situation I wanted to avoid because after h4 white is in the driver's seat, and if I play something like h4 h6, white is having the tension and having the space, and it's all symmetrical. So I thought this is slightly worse for black, and I considered doing it with g6. So this is breaking the symmetry a bit, but at the same time also giving him a bit more space. And basically I'm also doing the same, like bringing out my queen, and I expected that some stuff like b3, bishop g7, bishop b2, takes might happen, and if I then try to neutralize or bother his queen, it's all gonna be very symmetrical. So I did not really like such ideas, and I was thinking, okay, what else to do then? I also considered playing h5, trying to take over some initiative on the h file, but I really did not like this too much. He's gaining the space. Okay, I might gain this square. Maybe I can set up something like this pawn structure and put some piece to f5, but at the same time he might still fight for the f5 square with some pieces or even with some pawns. The e-pawn is not yet committed to something like e5, and at the same time I'm giving him a lot of space. So what else to do? I cannot really move this central pawn. Moving this central pawn, it really has no point, I think, because I'm locking in my queen. I cannot really expand in the center, and this pawn might even become a target quite quickly. And so I looked at the board a bit and I thought maybe I can move, of course, this pawn, but I again thought, okay, he might do the same later and it might be symmetrical, so I consider moving the a-pawn. This might look very stupid at first sight because it's moving a pawn on the rim, and when I was thinking about this over the board, I was actually a bit scared that I'm a bit too ambitious and I'm a bit too creative here, moving my pawn on the rim. But at the same time, I did not really see anything crushing. Given white can do like 2 moves here, it doesn't kill me. Like, my king is pretty safe. If the king can stay there, I will finally bring my rook out. I will maybe push even a4, and then I will like slowly develop. Like, it's not that white has taken over the center, and those pawns on the rim, they might, for example, spend a lot of time. Like if he goes h4, h5 and then trades here, like he spent all the time, but he achieved almost nothing. So I thought I can afford to lose some time and expand on the other side of the board. So I play a5. Then I realized, okay, he might do the same with a4, but often people like want to punish you if you go on the rim. So yeah, I was quite happy to see him not to play this one, because after this I would need to decide again, like, where on the board do I want to break the symmetry, because he's keeping all the symmetry. So a4, yeah, might be a good move. Instead, he played knight f3, and I was not bothered at all by this, because basically his queen is locked in. Also, his central pawn formation might not expand quickly, and the knight is having no targets yet. So actually, at this point, black is already better after 2 moves, which is kind of crazy. And at the board, I thought, like, a4 is a good move. I didn't plan this from the very start, but as soon as I realized that he might play a4, I thought, I want to prevent this. Furthermore, I have not told you the idea of a5 yet, why it's actually useful. One of my ideas was, if he is expanding there, I might play something like g6 now, and if he goes something like b3, then I might be the one who is having all the tension and all the opportunities on the a file, maybe going a3, even try to hit the king, and I think I have something to play for on the queen side. So that's basically the idea, because it's so likely that this bishop will go here, and b3 will be played, so that I have a4 opening the file. However, that never happened, because he played knight f3 and I played a4 immediately. Now he was a bit reluctant to go b3, because like my pawn is already there, my rook will be opened. Also, there are some options to play a3 at a good moment. So a3 played. He didn't like my pawn to go further, but at the same time I prevented his bishop from going to b2 at any moment, because yeah, basically b3 is not an option anymore. g6, knight c3, bishop g7, h4, knight d6, h5, and knight c6. Normal development, so no more comments for those moves. One quick note. First, I thought in the game about such move like g5, like closing the h file, and at the same time trying to protect this pawn by some tactics. But then realizing that tactics basically don't work, because he can take anyway, and if I do this discovery against the knight, he will take with this pawn, finally protecting the knight, and I would just be way worse, because I have blundered the pawn. So no g5, but instead normal development, knight c6, h6. He's gaining space, but at the same time, already now, despite having started with a5, a4, I gained a lead in development. I have developed 2 pieces, and it's my move, and so I was already very happy here. Also, my general game plan is to play against this bishop. Imagine a situation where I end up with a knight on c4 versus this bishop on c1, and it's so hard to get his queen side developed. The bishop really wants to protect b2, and as long as the bishop stays, the rook won't come out. So I was already quite optimistic here, and just continued improving the pieces. Rook a5 was a good move. Pawn to e3, pawn to b6, knight d4, and bishop to b7. I was expecting him to increase the pressure on the long diagonal, and I was considering to take and try to install a knight on the light squares, but at the same time I was not 100% happy with improving his pawn structure, and that's when I found a move which I like more, which is queen f6. I'm hitting this f2 pawn. If he trades on c6, I will get the f2 in return, and I will not have improved his pawn structure. And at the same time I had a plan that after f4 I can trade, and now okay, I again improve his pawn structure, but this e4 square is like weakened forever, and I can play queen e6 with very good control of the light squares, can install the knight here or there, and enjoy a good game. He took the pawn, and I took the pawn, and I thought the game is more or less over. He has way more weaknesses. I have the better knight. His bishop is locked in. But technically, I struggled a bit. And I even gave him some chance to come back into the game. So let me show you how it went. So far everything was good. Queen f1, rook d2, f5. I'm setting my pawns in motion. Now he played rook d5. There is not so much counterplay after queen d7, I thought, because I take and I can defend my h7. Now having a passer, his piece is still stuck, and h6 is also weak. Instead he didn't go for that one, but tried to trade the rooks. Rook d8, g5, g5. Now he really needs to worry about stuff like this one. Also, yeah, first I thought he cannot get his pieces out at all, but then he played this king a2 anyway, and I realized maybe queen c4 is not that easy. Let me show you why. If queen c4, first I thought the queen trade should be easily winning because his pieces are caged in, but I saw this e4 and it bothered me a bit. Maybe I should have calculated deeper here and just have gone for it. But once he gets his bishop out, I was not sure how easy it will be to stabilize my e-pawn. In fact, this is winning, but I was a bit scared that the e-pawn might fall and I might not be able to push it, and then it might be too drawish. So, for example, if he at some good moment might kick my knight, this pawn will drop, and I was not sure about it. But it's a winning line, but what I did was still fine. I kept the pressure with queen e2, trying to attack the light squares. Queen d3. He's offering a queen trade again, but of course I don't want to take on d3 as it would improve his pawn structure. So I targeted this pawn, and now he tried his luck with e4. Needs to do it, because otherwise I will just get very good control and he will never get his pieces out. I was a bit hoping for this move bishop d2 that he desperately wants to get a bishop out, as it would lose the game immediately after knight b7, and the queen cannot keep the contact with the bishop, which is quite funny, as the queen has a lot of range of motion but cannot keep the bishop protected. So no bishop d2, so the pawn sack was more or less forced. Now I'm pawn up, and I thought this must be over, and in fact he's offering me a second pawn. I could have taken it again, and this should offer some very good chances to win the game. But there are some concrete lines needed, like knight f3 here, to really get this pawn through, but it's winning and I should have found this. Instead I went for rook g8, trying to improve the rook. Maybe, just take on c4 in a better moment. For example, after bishop e3, I can take and I would hit the bishop, win one more important tempo, and otherwise there are not so many squares for the bishop to go to. He played queen d5, and first I was very happy about it, because I can take, and now I can avoid all the counterplay with rook to g1. And I thought a bishop versus knight endgame would be completely lost if the rooks get traded, because there is no counterplay. His pawns are on dark squares, I have a passer, and so on. However, I also consider rook g2. I was not entirely sure about a line like this. He might get counterplay against this h7 pawn. I was thinking this here should be winning, and it indeed is, but you need to find some more accurate moves like this, and you're picking up more stuff, and you will just be faster as well as black. But I was not able to see it till the very end, so I didn't like to allow this counterplay. Instead I played the rook g1. No counterplay at all. The bishop alone will never hit my h7, and he of course needed to trade the rooks, otherwise I will just improve the position slowly and he still cannot get his pieces out. Maybe I even can consider something like pushing the pawn immediately if he is waiting around. Bishop f4 takes. And at this point I started misplaying it a bit. I should have probably gone knight c4, push the pawn, and here there is not so much he can do. He at some point must play b3, otherwise I'm getting my king into the game without my knight ever being kicked, and then I win another pawn here, and something like this should be winning. He cannot take on e2 easily because it would drop another pawn. His pawns are weak, and yeah, black is 2 pawns up, should win the game. Instead I play king c8 first, and after b3 things were already not so easy, and I played knight f5, king came there, e3, king c3, e2, and take. Here of course black is better, but white is in the drawing range, and I was actually a bit lucky that I could win this. So I tricked him a bit. I tried to force some moves, but yeah, he could have taken here and it's still holdable. However, he blundered it again with bishop to e3. Now I get 2 connected passers and won quite easily. Now I set them into motion. He can never trade a knight because the 2 passers win, and now they move and they move and they move. And here, game is over. e3 played, and I think he played this one, and after knight b2 resigned. So that's it for the first game. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.